Good morning, everyone. It is currently just around 10:17 a.m. It is March 10th, 2026, where we do have the threat across into some portions of the Permian Basin for some strong to even severe thunderstorms. I don't expect everyone into the Permian Basin. We're going to see this threat today. It's really going to be kind of along to our eastern portions of the Permian Basin. And we have a lot of weather impacts to break down, especially across West Texas today, because we have the threat of severe storms, very breezy conditions, alongside even some fire weather concerns for our western counties. So this is certainly going to feel like spring across West Texas as we go and throughout the majority of the day. But currently, even taking a look out of downtown Midland, you wouldn't even think that there could even be a chance of storms are coming. But we're going to see that opportunity more so as we head into around the late afternoon into the early evening. I'll show why in just a second, why we even have this clear sky into the first place, where it is around 67 degrees. We have a dew point around 53, so it feels a little muggy out there. But I do anticipate, especially the more west, especially into some portions of Midland, Odessa, we'll start to get some drier air, and I'll talk about the reason why that will be the case in just a moment. But right now, we're just going to keep a breeze throughout the majority of the day, coming in from the southwest. It is certainly going to be a rather breezy day, especially for our western counties. We'll see those wind gusts well over 30, maybe even 35 miles per hour through the majority of the day. Could even create some blowing dust at times. So temperature is going to be well back into the 80s. So one thing I kind of want to make a mention of is where our dry line is currently at the moment. We can kind of depict this with the difference of the moisture, with the higher dew points into the 50s, even some 60s more towards portions even to the Big Country Contra Valley. But along into the western Permian Basin, we got those dew points into the 30s, even into some 40s. That's a lot of drier air. This dry line is going to be kind of a determining factor of who is going to see the best opportunity of some showers and storms. And where it is currently west of Midland and Odessa, I anticipate that dry line could actually set up a bit east of Midland and Odessa today, or just right along in between Midland and Odessa. And east of that dry line is going to be where we're going to see the best opportunity of some showers and thunderstorms. But we'll see that in just a moment. We do have a clear sky right now, a couple isolated showers, especially off into portions of far west Texas into near El Paso, even down into portions of the southeastern portions of the Contra Valley, along into the heartland, where we're starting to see some of those clearing skies. And this is because we're starting to get a little bit of that dry slot beginning to push in from the upper level disturbance. And with that dry slot, that will help at least clear out those skies, but we'll begin to see some increasing moisture, especially towards the east. And with that increasing moisture, especially at the low levels, that's how we are able to build that instability, especially with the sunlight as we go in throughout the majority of the day, which will be a key factor to who's going to see the stronger storms, especially the severe ones, as we head into the later portions of the day, in which we are under the gun, especially across much of West Texas, pushing towards portions even of San Angelo and Abilene of strong to even severe thunderstorms. We have that level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk. That's into the area of orange, all the way up and towards portions of the Oklahoma City metro, pushing even as far east as near the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex. So it is going to be a very wide swath of severe weather, especially if you are traveling eastbound today. You're going to be actually running into more of that, at least more potent severe weather threats in comparison if you are traveling west today. So per se, if you're going from Midland to maybe Pecos, you'll be dealing with limited severe weather, and you'll just be dealing with some breezy conditions. Per se, if you're going from Midland to San Angelo or Midland to Abilene today, you'll actually be under the gun for more of a severe weather threat. So if you are traveling east today, definitely keep that in mind. That's where that severe threat is going to be a bit more potent. But if you are traveling west, the severe weather does tend to calm down, not much in looking away of even showers and storms, but we will be looking at some breezy conditions, where we do have a wind advisory in effect for portions of Pecos, Van Horn, Alpine, down into near Big Bend, all the way to Carlsbad and Artesia. This is for those wind gusts. They're going to be upwards of 40 to near 50 miles an hour today. A lot of dry conditions could even lead to a little bit of dust pushing into portions of the Permian Basin, so I'm not going to rule that out, especially later into the day. And along into portions of the Guadalupe Mountains, we can see those wind gusts upwards of maybe even 60 miles an hour. This is going to be between around 1 p.m. to about 1 a.m. today. So it's going to be dry, warm, and breezy off into the west. The more east that you go, that's where we're going to be able to have that moisture set up today. And it's going to be a fine cutoff in comparison where we're going to have that drier air and that moist, unstable air mass. So we're going to have a dry lane that will set up. Right now, I'm thinking it's going to be just along in between Midland and Odessa, if not just a little east. And with that, that means possibly areas in Midland, Odessa today, it may be hard for us to be able to get some of those showers and thunderstorms, as I think anticipate the greater risk will be more east. So I'm talking now areas, let me zoom in on this map real quick. I'm talking areas like Big Spring is under this, Garden City is under this, Big Lake is under this, Ozona is under this, alongside into portions more of the Big Country and Concho Valley, and for our southeastern counties, along into portions like Terrell County, Sanderson is also involved into this level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk of severe weather. And then at least into Midland, Odessa, we fall literally right in between that marginal risk and also that slight risk, because it's kind of where that dry line is going to try to set up today, just right over us. So if the best opportunity for some showers and storms, it's likely going to end up going to Midland today in comparison to possibly Odessa. So let's go ahead and just zoom this out back real quick, and we can definitely see when it more into that enhanced risk, especially again if you are traveling eastbound, you're going to run into more of that threat of some strong to severe thunderstorms, even to portions of Abilene, San Angelo, Brady, Brownwood, Haskell, even up and towards portions of Throckmorton. So when it comes to the main weather impacts though, we're going to go ahead and go to the slight risk. It's going to be for the threat of some strong storms, even some isolated wind gusts, possibly upwards of 60 miles an hour, some isolated large hail alongside maybe an isolated tornado. But when it comes, unfortunately, when it to more of the all hazards, it's really going to go in towards the enhanced risk. So I'm talking again like areas of possibly Big Spring, Garden City, Big Lake, Ozona, down into near areas of just kind of Rankin and even towards Crane, where we are into that enhanced risk of severe weather. That means we could see more scattered storms possible and possibly even more scattered severe weather. So what this means is this is where the strongest threat of possibly a few tornadoes could be, alongside some large hail, and I'm talking on the absolutely highest end. I say worst case scenario could be possibly up to as large as baseball size. I think a lot of us may fall, especially if we're going to get that large hail, especially southeast of Midland and Odessa. I think it's going to be a lot more of those kind of golf ball to maybe tennis ball size. So it's not much improvement, but large hail is going to be the dominating threat, at least across portions of the Permian Basin, especially pointing east today. So when it comes to the timeline, let's break it down. So for the Permian Basin, it's going to be around 3 p.m. I see kind of the latest. We could even see storms maybe as early as 2 p.m. But I say when those storms are really going to be able to ramp up and get a little bit more juice, it'll be between around 2 to 3 p.m. They'll be able to form along the two portions of the Permian Basin. I'll show that future track in just a bit. And those storms will be able to form more into a line and push east. And so Midland, Odessa, Permian Basin, Big Lake, Ozona will be done with the storms after 8 p.m. and we'll be working with breezy conditions, especially further off into the west as it pushes east, as that dry line pushes east throughout the majority of the day. So it is certainly going to be a breezy day on top of the storm chances along into our eastern portions. Now, if you are traveling eastbound today, just keep in mind, especially for areas of the Big Country, Concho Valley, you'll get a few isolated to kind of scatter storms and be able to form more of a line pushing eastward as we head in towards the later portions of the evening hour. I say after 7 p.m., that's when those storms will be able to push into the eastern Permian Basin towards the Big Country of Concho Valley, and they'll be relatively out of the region by about 2 a.m. So the main weather impacts when it comes to, this is kind of ordered, at least when it comes to the severity of the impacts that I'm tracking, it's going to be for the large hail. I think the large hail is going to be the most, at least potentially highest impact that we could see today, especially into the most strongest and intense storms, as well even some damaging winds. And there is a very low wind opportunity. I don't think it's necessarily going to be anything widespread at the moment, but we could see maybe a potential downburst or two, especially where we do have that separation of that dry air in some areas, even a separation from that temperature. That's where we can get something we call a bit more of a downburst could be possible. But with those damaging winds, that'll form more into a line pushing east. I'll talk about that in just a moment. But into the few strongest storms, those isolated thunderstorms that we can see that will first initiate around that 3 to 6 p.m. mark, that's when we could possibly be able to have that low end chance of maybe a few isolated tornadoes. And some of them could try to be onto the strong end, but it's not necessarily a guaranteed shot, and not every storm will have that actually possibility to be able to see a tornado. But it is a low opportunity, and that's something we have to keep in mind as we go throughout the majority of the day. So the best thing that you can do is to make sure you stay updated with us through the majority of the day, as well have those multiple ways to get those weather alerts. And one way you can do that is by downloading a NewsWest 9 app. So we're going to go ahead and just break down more of the timing real quick across into portions of the Permian Basin, Big Country, Concho Valley, side. We'll see those storms ramp up in intensity as we start heading it throughout the next several hours. So basically between around 2 to 3 p.m. and they'll increase in coverage. So across into portions of the Permian Basin, especially pointing west, coverage is going to be low, but pointing east, that's where we're going to have overall the better coverage of some showers and even some thunderstorms today. And this is just looking at the rain opportunity with the storms, not necessarily the chance of area where that severe threat at least is going to end up initializing, if that makes sense. So this is just the coverage of overall just rain, showers, and thunderstorms with the threat of potential severe weather. So into the dark green, that's about 60 to 80% of us could be able to see that threat of some showers and thunderstorms today, pushing in south of the I-20 corridor along into near portions of Big Lake, Ozona, Sanderson, San Angelo, Abilene. But we do have a very fine cutoff, kind of where that dry line is going to try to set up shop today to around 20 to 40% coverage, pushing into areas like Midland, Odessa, also into near areas of Hobbs, Pecos, Alpine. The further west that you go, that severe threat will actually be rather non-existent. And when it comes to showers and thunderstorms, there'll be a lot more breezy conditions in between than those showers and thunderstorms, especially towards portions of southeastern Mexico along into the Davis Mountains. So let's go ahead and track it with time real quick. So this will be around 12 p.m. We're going to still work with a rather clear sky throughout much of the day. So it's going to be a rather still enjoyable day. It's just going to be a bit breezy, but I will go ahead and bring any of those outdoor plans that you have, maybe for an outdoor lunch. I would go ahead and bring those dinner plans inside, especially for our kind of southeastern portions, where I do anticipate when it comes to at least the greater coverage, at least when storms first initiate, it really is going to be along into our eastern portions of the region, into this area that I circled. We'll have a few isolated showers, mostly off into the west as well, including areas like Culberson County, Eddy, and Lee County. But I think with a lot of the drier air, a lot of it is going to have a hard time really making it towards the ground, something that we called Virgub. And with that, I think dry lightning could actually even be a possibility for our far western counties. But again, the coverage will overall be rather low, especially the further west that you go. But the area that I do have circled, that's kind of where I do anticipate we'll be able to see some storms initiate as we start heading in throughout the next couple hours, especially between around 2, 3, 4 p.m. And these are going to be the isolated thunderstorms, the ones that we're going to have to watch for maybe those little spin-ups that could be possible and those supercellular storms. So as these storms will continue to move some more off into the east, keep in mind this is a timestamp around 4 p.m. We're going to go ahead and take you to around 7 p.m. as those storms will be able to kind of congeal a bit more together. And once they congeal a bit more together, that's when that severe threat can actually kind of calm down just rather briefly. But once they start congealing together, that's when I think we're going to get more of a line along into the eastern portions of the Permian Basin. And even by this point, between around 2, 3, 4 p.m. to about 7 p.m., especially for Midland, Odessa, once those storms really start pushing east, we're going to be done with the storm threat. So it really is going to be a very small window for us to get that threat of severe weather, especially for Midland, Odessa today. But the further east, it really is going to be that time frame between about 3 p.m. to about 8 p.m. today. So for Midland, Odessa, it's a very small time frame, but pushing east, like areas like Big Spring, down in towards near areas of Ozona, Big Lake, that's where we'll be able to have that longer period of at least a threat for some severe thunderstorms. So this is about 7 p.m. We'll see these storms keep moving off and towards the east, and as these storms move off and towards the east, well after 8 p.m. at this point, we're all just going to be done, working with some very breezy westerly winds. So I think we'll see those gusts at times possibly around 20 to 30 miles per hour as we go in throughout the remainder of the night, even higher off into our western counties. But that line of storms into near areas of like San Angelo and Abilene, that's when we'll begin to see more of that damaging straight line winds alongside some possibly isolated large hail and those very quick spin ups possible. So if you have any family members towards near the Big Country Contra Valley, let them aware they're going to get some storms rolling into the overnight, and make sure they have those alerts on. As those storms will continue to push off more into the east, that severe threat will overall weaken within time, and I say around 2, 3 a.m. It's mostly just going to be some general showers and thunderstorms, and all of us are going to remain dry as we go and throughout much of the rest of Wednesday, even and throughout much of the afternoon. And it's just going to be another breezy day that's going to be expected with some more drier air coming in, as well even some cooler temperatures. So after all things are said and done, after these showers and storms move out, we can definitely look at least where the trends are, a lot more of those deeper colors. That's where the higher rain coverage is going to be alongside the higher rain amounts. So into portions of San Angelo, Abilene, into kind of far eastern Permian Basin, into portions of Crockett County, upwards of a ½ inch to an inch and a half of rain could be possible, upwards of isolated totals of 2 inches. So this will lead to actually a localized flood risk. So just be mindful of that as we head into the later portions of today, into around early tomorrow, especially for the east. But I say for Midland, Odessa, pushing into portions of Snyder, these storms are going to be very quick moving, so it's not going to be a lot of beneficial rainfall at once. I see upwards of a 1/4 inch, maybe on the highest end, along into the eastern portions, maybe upwards towards an inch of rain. So unfortunately, it's not going to be much in the way of beneficial rainfall that's going to be expected. But when it comes to at least our eastern portions towards San Angelo and Abilene, that's where the overall higher rain chance, and at least in terms of intensity of storms alongside with the higher rain amounts, are going to be. So at least for today, expect a few wildly scattered storms. It's going to be hit and miss and form more into a line into the eastern Permian Basin, pushing east by after 7 p.m. So I say around 3 p.m. to about 8 p.m. Be extra weather aware today. Be extra alert. Make sure you have those multiple ways to receive those weather alerts, because at least for today, it's going to be the only day I'm only going to have storm chances into my forecast. So after the severe weather threat that we're going to be expecting heading in towards the evening hours and towards the early morning hours, especially further east, I have no more rain chances into my forecast. So the main key details, at least for the remainder of today, it's going to be rather breezy, especially for our western counties, pushing into portions of Midland and Odessa and the Permian Basin. A few isolated thunderstorms possible into portions like Midland, Odessa. The higher risk is going to be further east along areas like Big Spring, Big Lake, Rankin, Ozona, that eastern zone east of Midland, Odessa. That's where that higher threat of severe weather is going to be for today. And with that, as those storms will push more so often to the east, generally after around 7 to 8 p.m., we're going to be done for the remainder of the night. Work with more breezy conditions as we go throughout the remainder of the night, even a little bit more as we head into Wednesday, as we'll be able to see a secondary cool front that will move through, drop those temperatures back into the 60s and 70s. So Wednesday is going to be another breezy day across the region, and we'll be able to work with a lot more in the way of sunshine and even calmer and warmer conditions as we head in towards the weekend. So today is the last rain chance, at least I have, into the next 7 in the forecast. So make sure to stay extra weather alert as we go and throughout the remainder of the day. Have those multiple ways to be able to receive those weather alerts, and one way you can do that is by downloading our NewsWest 9 Plus app. You can scan the QR code on your screen. If you're watching on your phone, you can also just take a screenshot of this image and also go into your photo app, and you'll be able to also scan that QR code. So stay weather aware today and have multiple ways to be able to receive those weather alerts as we go and throughout much of the day.